You're listening to a main feed episode. Go to patreon.com/Celtic Ligers where €5 a month gets you weekly full-length episodes, stray bonus content and access to the back catalogue. Also helps cover hosting and gives us money for sweeties. Thank you. Celtic Ligers.
Recorded 14th of February 2024.
I was trying to use the new bottle returner machines.
I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask. I was not going to ask.
Yeah.
I just because I would never have thought that you were going to use it, but
yeah.
I presumed once you started that sentence that that's what you're going to say.
Yeah.
So how did it go? Is what I was going to ask.
But you can't put in condoms. You know, I was just trying to think of a funny way of putting that. You know, put a used condom in. Expect to get money back. Be funny, wouldn't
And what
it?
would they have to do with cans or?
Yeah, I was looking at a pair of cans when I filled the condom. No, I didn't.
There were some.
I didn't actually use them. I don't know, but I've heard none of them are working.
Yeah, I've seen and heard that none of them are working, and also like as soon as they announced that it was happening, I was like, well, this is going to be a bunch of bullshit because Irish people still need about 10 people to stand beside a self-checkout to show them how to use it. Like, It's not. There is no fucking way that's going to work. Like, and then when you look back, like I'll be watching Seinfeld. Remember, there's an episode of Seinfeld where there is like a state that does that can buyback scheme where they get more money than they would to deposit the cans there than they would in New York State.
They get 5 cents extra or something, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But even still, that means that they had that scheme over in the United States back in 1988, at least.
Yeah.
Okay, and the idea is you collect the cans, you bring them to a guy, the guy counts the cans, and then you get the money. Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas when you go like, we're gonna do this scheme that is like could just be foolproof, you know, and we're gonna have a thing where you put in one can at a time.
Yeah.
And if it's the right type of can and scans the barcode and the can is, and you're just like, oh, you've something that's already going to be difficult for a lot of Irish people. You've added so many other variables and tech variables at that. It's just like, this is not happening. This is not going to be.
I also don't really get why, like, so say we have recycling bins, right? And then we have bottle banks.
Yeah.
So why don't they just extend the bottle bank scheme for plastics? Because people already people use bottle banks all the time. It'd just be like, oh, you can now dispose of them for free at a bottle bank.
In theory, if I was to hear this about like, okay, take the can, put it into this thing, and you get coin back.
Yeah.
That's basically like deputizing the homeless, essentially.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, I could use a bit of money. I see some cans on the street. I'm going to put them into the thing. Do you know?
That's what it is
like
in America.
To reduce visible litter. But then it doesn't seem to work that way because the cans need to be like clean, or they need to be like, if you're picking up a can off of the riverbank, it's not going to be like clean or whatever. And then I don't know how it works. I haven't tried it out. I'm just talking as like a hater. But like, I saw a picture shared by Senator Barry Ward.
Oh yeah,
who was previously
he's called
out on this show for being actually decent on one topic, but
what
that was
that?
in a very not really decent. It was just that he was on a panel where they were talking about immigration on Upfront with Katie Hannon, and he wasn't a virulent racist, so that was actually good. But he, like, one of the quotes that he used, I mentioned, he goes, so this guy is going at him saying, basically saying,
oh man,
these people are being asked to self-deport and they're not doing it, you know, the implication being that they're hardened criminals, okay?
Yeah.
And Barry Ward actually responds, he's like, this isn't the United States where ICE break down your door at 5 a.m. and drag you out. There are processes here. And I'm not afraid to say that we do have these processes. He's basically trying to say, like, we don't have a punitive migration system. We tell people to self-deport, okay?
Yeah.
The majority of them do it. Like, what do you want from me? Do you want the police to tear them out of their house? Is that what you want? And I was like, that's a bold thing for a Fine Gael politician to say, you know? Like, strangely, like, non-punitive. But anyway, the point is, Barry Ward, like, took a picture of one of those machines and he was like, oh, lads, come on, here. Because there was somebody had left a big bag of fucking cans next to it. Because clearly what had happened is they came in, put in one can, and then the conveyor belt just keeps rejecting it. And they're like, I got fucking places to be.
Yeah.
And then they left. Okay? And it seems like it just the idea of him saying, like, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
you're too stupid to use the machine, too lazy.
I was like, I don't know. Like, I could just see a million ways about how it's not the person who left all those cans. It's not their fault that they had to leave the fucking cans.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it was like, I'm not dragging this shit around for the rest of the day. Like, you deal with it. Presumably, some enterprising individual can take the cans that I put here and they can get the money for it, okay? Because I'm not bothering. I guarantee you as well, I haven't checked this, you don't get the actual money, do you? They give you a slip to take to somewhere else to get the money. I guarantee you. That has to be something that happened. I have not checked at all.
What they should do is they should feed the tins to dogs that are going to get put down anyway.
Yeah. Something that everybody can get behind.
They're dead. They're dying anyway.
Yeah.
Isn't it mad the way if a dog... And this really preys in my mind, and it always has. You know, a dog gets taken into a pound. And then what, it's 3 days before they shoot it in the back of the head?
Yeah.
Isn't it something like that?
Well, I don't know if it's 3 days, but
long.
They do eventually put them down.
It's like...
Yeah.
It's short enough that you'd want to be looking for the dog. Like, you wouldn't want to be seen if the dog came home. You know what I mean? You'd want to be out there looking for that dog 24/7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just something that...
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Something to mull over.
Give it a year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. If they haven't picked them up by the end of a year... Apparently there was some item on the news that I was watching and they were like, there's like 400 dogs that have been put into the pound since Christmas. Because people... Here's the one I don't get personally, which is that they get the dog and then they're like, oh, actually, this is a lot of work. And then they just drive out to the countryside and leave it there. It's like, what is that? What type of person do you have to be to do that? Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, bring it somewhere, put out an ad. Like, it's a young dog. I just don't get it. I don't get how, like, you can't find somebody to give this dog to.
I know.
Do you know?
Yeah. One time this fella knocked on our door and he was like, is this yours? And he had a turtle in his hand.
Yeah.
And we were like, no. And he was like, oh, because it was just on your wall.
Really?
And I was like, okay, well, I'll take it from you, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess someone would just, like, fuck the terrapin out of the window of their car or something. Like, they're just driving by and we're like, poof, you know?
My friend worked at a vet. I think the statute of limitations on this means that I can say it. Even though I'm not identifying them, so I guess it also makes no difference. But they worked in a vet and their name was Sarah. Oh,
yeah.
No, it wasn't Sarah. Psych, gotcha.
Sarah
but anyway,
fucker.
Sarah. So somebody comes in with a big box of kittens and they're like, oh, look at these cute little kittens. All right. And the guy's like, yeah, just put them all down. And they go, whoa. Well, it was like, do you not want to like rehome them or something? Nah, put them all down. And then he goes, we're like, that's 90 quid per head on the cat. And he goes, yeah, fine.
What?
Pays 90 quid, just have these kittens put down. So the vet, in this instance, just took the money and then put the kittens behind the counter and then just took them home at the end of the day to like give to people.
That's crazy.
Could give them to. But imagine that you're like that type of person. That you're like, yeah, I'll pay €90 a head
That's
to kill
so much money.
a box of kittens. Yeah.
Like in that
There's
case,
like 6 kittens there at least.
just drive out to the country, leave them. You know what I mean? Like give them some.
Yeah.
Yeah. People used to do the thing, put them all in a sack and drop them in a river.
Yeah, not good. But still, that would actually be more humane than that.
Yeah.
Like, the thing you were saying about the terrapin as well, I was like, is that not... Maybe it was that guy's, like, clever schemes. Like, I really hate this terrapin.
Yeah.
And then he comes up to a house like, hey, I think somebody left this outside. And you go, well, I guess I'll take it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I presume. And he's, like, rubbing his little hands together like...
Yeah. Finally, I'm rid of that terrapin. Up all night barking and screaming. But then the bad thing is that I don't know if you've ever seen it. They look the same as a turtle, and we were like,
yeah,
feeding it. We were like, it's not eating the lettuce, you know, or the carrot, and it kept like digging into the garden, on the ground, and we were like digging it back up, and then we brought it to the vet. The vet was like, these things only eat meat.
Oh,
so it was just
like sprat or something.
What?
Like sprat or like little fish or something.
No, they eat like rats and stuff.
No way.
So we just were like starving to death, you know. And then the vet was like, "I'm not sending this home with you. I'm gonna keep this."
Did the vet keep it? That's very good of them.
Yeah.
I love that there was a show called like The Dog Whisperer, you know, where he talks to... he doesn't talk to them, but he's like a trainer and stuff. But one of them, they had this like incredibly violent dog, and they've got, okay, we've got like a 3-year-old, so we need this dog to be like a little better behaved. And the guy's like, okay, cool. Then he goes away and he's like training the dog. They have the whole thing. And then the big reveal at the end is that I'm just going to get you a new dog. Yeah. This guy is too fucked.
This one's too psycho. I know. I was saying to Rob there, we walked by one of those, I don't know if it's an XL bully, but that sort of dog, you know those things?
Yeah.
And like, it is just like if someone had a gun up to your head and they're like, I don't feel like shooting you at the minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's,
don't
worry, it's perfectly safe. It's not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything. You know? It's like, there's such like ferocious... cute. Have you ever seen one? Like, they're
only on like the telly, not in real life. Like, no,
it's like that. It's just they're so muscular. It's like as strong as a horse, and it has like a bear's teeth. You know.
Yeah.
And they're just like snarling and like. If it got you, you're dead. Like there's no.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, the dog bit me. It's like the dog ate me. I'm dead.
The dog chewed up your tendons. Your leg is not going to work the same way again.
Like,
and if you're a kid, you
forget
are
about
fucked.
it. Like, you're dead.
Your skull has been crushed in its jaws.
Yeah, it's like living next to like a radioactive bomb or something. Like it's just they're so violent by their very nature.
Yeah. What news do we got? Do we got news to talk about?
Just
things
Paul
that are in the
Curry
news.
got banned from Edinburgh.
Yes, he got banned from Edinburgh. I didn't see that.
No, sorry, from somewhere. Let me look it up.
Well, he wasn't. The article that I read was on chortle.co.uk, and they were talking about. Apparently, he's at a gig. He's performing, and then eventually pulls out like a Palestinian flag, and then gets everybody to like chant like "Free Palestine."
Yeah.
Okay, and then at the end of the gig, everybody's standing up and applauding, and he sees some guy not applauding, and he said, "Oh, you didn't like my show?" And the guy's like, "I did until you pulled out your Palestinian flag," and it turned out he was Israeli. And so Paul Curry then starts like going, get out of my gig, just screaming at him.
Yeah.
And then he gets the entire audience to say, get out of my gig. And then they were like, we left and we felt unsafe. And I was like, good. I'm actually fine with that. I'm like, an Israeli, like just being like, oh, you're Israeli, get out. But it was the fact that it was coupled with, I am an Israeli who is anti-Palestinian, and the presence of a Palestinian flag and the idea of a free Palestine is hostile to me. It's like, get out of my fucking show. Fuck off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's fine to me. I'm happy with any Israeli who feels scared right now. That's fine for me. Sorry.
Yeah. Don't you think that laughter brings people together? Don't you think that's the job of a comedian?
Yeah. You know what? I take it back. You're right.
Yeah.
We should be uniting rather than dividing.
We should be bigger than genocide divide us.
Yeah.
Speaking, did you see the other thing about the Arts Council in England?
No.
And apparently they're saying that they're now taking into account political statements in art.
Wow.
So like, not in your application, as an artist.
Yeah.
They'll look at political statements you've made, and that can affect your funding. On
Facebook and shit.
So that would like, or even just as part of other bits of art you've done. Like anything, basically. Basically just being like, if you are, I mean, I think it's coming in with the whole, it's coming in because of the Israel-Palestine stuff. Basically being like, if we think you're anti-Israel, you're best of luck getting Arts Council funding. But
they actually did that in Germany, like explicitly. They were like, if you say anything anti-Palestinian or anti-Israeli, that will affect your...
yeah. Like, that is just...
Yeah.
Like, censorship. Like,
yeah.
Like, there's always been that sort of unofficial censorship, you know, it's like just choosing who's allowed to speak and who isn't, sort of thing. Or who you invite onto your show or onto the BBC. Whereas this is just straight up, like, we don't want art we don't agree with.
Yeah. I mean, they've been, the English have been, or the Brits, but the English, really, have been doing this for ages, like with their anti kind of protest bills, and they did something there recently where they were like, you can't cover your face at protests, which is like actually like the only ones who cover their faces at protests are the fascists, and those are the ones. Well, no, they're not the only ones, but you know what I mean.
Muslims and that. Muslim women, I get you.
It's actually, I didn't think about that.
It's mad
that's
how
not good.
2 years ago, you had to cover your face. You know what I mean? You had to wear a muzzle.
I know.
And now, 2 years ago, people in XL bullies had to wear muzzles. And now it's only the people aren't allowed to wear a muzzle. And the XL bullies are killed.
2 years ago, we had jobs, cash, and
XL bullies
and hope. Yeah. And now we don't have jobs or hope or cash anymore. And like, XL bullies.
XL bullies are gone. And COVID's worse than ever.
It's crazy. It's powerfully evil. And, we're living in a real fucked. I think like
I say we're living in the dark timeline.
Yeah. It's funny. I was literally just about to say that. No.
I was literally just about to say we should be wearing goatees.
Yeah. No, I just think that something shattered in the aftermath of October 7th. Yeah. And I think some of the things that we're seeing are looking at the same things kind of happening that I'm used to seeing, but then like there's so much worse. There's always that kind of like, I guess the best comparison would be all of the Israeli stuff where it's like posting from the mid 2010s and it's like, you know, here's AI has produced this video of what Gaza would have looked like had Hamas not been so evil, you know, and then people have to be on TV like stroking their chins being like, is it genocide? And we have to remove this person. Like, I know I don't really like talking about British politics on this show, but I do watch it a lot. But like, I don't know if you've seen so there was a guy, I think it was Andy MacDonald, and he was like an MP. He was running to be an MP in a by-election, and he said, we want a future where Israelis and Palestinians can live in peaceful liberty between the river and the sea. And so they suspended him for being anti-Semitic.
Fuck off.
Yeah, so that happened. And then this other lady there like 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was last week actually. She goes, it was something like Holocaust Memorial Day, and she was like, we need to think about other genocides that are ongoing, including the one in Gaza. They were like, that's anti-Semitism, apologize for that tweet. And then she goes, I deleted the tweet and I apologized, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And then they suspended her from the Labour Party anyway.
Really?
And then there was another guy there last week, or like maybe not even last week, just in the past few days, and he's on the Labour right. So he said that Netanyahu allowed for the October 7th attacks to happen. Okay.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's anti-Semitic. So they wanted his scalp, but all of the same people who were like zero tolerance, they were suddenly out going, well, he fell prey to a conspiracy theory, but that's okay. Like, we're all like that. It's we just have to rise above because we need to beat the Tories, and this guy is an important by-election candidate. And well, anyway, I don't know. I'm going to kind of cut that one short. Just basically, they were rallying to support a guy who was their factional ally, and they were racing to condemn somebody else. But actually, it doesn't matter because the guy has had to step down anyway. Because or he's been suspended anyway because of some audio of the exchange which the Daily Mail had been sitting on, and now they're going after another Labour candidate for saying something that was allegedly anti-Semitic. Although saying Netanyahu orchestrated or like allowed the October 7th attacks to happen is actually not anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Like, they're kind of using, it's like a trope because it's saying that Jewish people control the media, or like that they might have orchestrated the September the 11th attack. Sometimes people say that, but it's like to say Netanyahu, like, I also don't believe it, incidentally. I think,
but it's more like saying George Bush did 9/11. Like it's of that exactly. lineage rather than the Jews control the world lineage. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, and the thing. Yeah, that's it. I mean, the other point that I want to bring up is just that I also don't believe that is the case.
Yeah.
I'm impartial to Felix Biederman of Chapo's reading, where he's basically saying that they do this type of stuff to downplay the strength of Hamas and the weakness of the IDF. As in, like, over time, armed forces can become, like, lethargic, especially if you're the Israeli. You're literally shooting fish in a barrel. And then when Hamas carry out this coordinated attack, which results in the deaths of so many Israelis and really kind of was quite a shock, they go, oh yeah, that was just a fluke, that was an accident, that happened because we let it happen. And it's like both can be kind of true. But I also kind of don't like the idea of downplaying how effective Hamas. Yeah.
Like, it really is it's the difference between people fighting for land and fighting for their life. Do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly, yeah.
I watch a lot of Grindset vlogs, obviously, and they say luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
Yes, exactly.
So,
but it is true, yeah.
So yeah, like Hamas, there was an element of luck, and then there was obviously they did a lot of planning and they executed it well,
There's a story that my old dad used to say where the guys came back from losing a match, okay?
Yeah.
And I think it was like Dunmore FC versus like, fucking
now how will I light my candles?
Is this... I'm trying to figure out what you said there. What is it?
He lost a match. He lost this match.
Fuck. Yes. No, it's like a football match, and then they're just like, they were like, oh man, the rain was pouring down, the mud was all up, and blah blah blah. And then the guy asks, and what pitch were Tyrone playing on?
Yeah. Yes.
So, do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I am saying? Okay.
Yeah. That actually reminds me a bit of the whole like Israel-Palestine thing. I don't know if...
Yeah.
you were aware of that.
Go off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got this weird ad from famous Jew, Stephen Fry. Now,
yeah, that was a shock, honestly.
Yeah. Now that might sound anti-Semitic. Me calling him a Jew, but he calls himself that in the video.
It's funny because it's an unusual combination to have one of those new atheist Jews.
Yeah.
Or should I say Jew atheist?
Yeah. And it's just him looking into the camera, and it's on Channel 4. But he's like, I am a Jew, and I will not let any anti-Semites, especially on the far right, take that away from me. And that's it. He's just like, I'm going to call myself a Jew, and anti-Semitism is bad. But that's it. He doesn't mention Israel and Palestine. But it seems very calculated to be like, I don't know, just to be like, be very careful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost more alarming that he's not mentioning Israel-Palestine. He's just like, he's essentially been like, all those stories you hear about anti-Semites in the Labour Party, they're legitimate.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you, like, again, obsessively following that awful country's politics. Where it's like, when you don't have to, you can just look away. And I'm always drawn in by the part where it's like, we need things to actually be slightly better. We need to fund the NHS, and maybe we should have a national broadband plan, and maybe we should nationalize the rails. And you're just like, hold me back, you fuckers.
Yeah,
like when they're just giving out. But like, the thing that happens is like, there was a suggestion that Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party was lenient on anti-Semitism and didn't do anything about it, and blah, blah, blah. And then it was always like hinted, suggested, da-da-da. Now it's just like, they go, well, now Starmer's in charge and he's done a great job of rooting out the anti-Semitism of Jeremy Corbyn. And it's like completely unchallenged. You don't have to say any examples. You don't have to. And especially now, that's the part that drives me crazy. Because in the past, it was always the conflation of anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. But to see like just the state of Israel and all the shit that they do and all the awful stuff, and then just to still be like, like to still make that what's the word I'm looking for? Conflate, the false equivalent. You know what I'm talking about? Where they like interchangeable. Yeah. That the idea that you can be against that awful thing that's happening, and that means you're an anti-Semite. It's like, fuck, man. Yeah. Well, then you've now made a bunch of people anti-Semites, because if the choice is, if you don't support this, you're an anti-Semite. It's like, well, I guess I'm an anti-Semite because I cannot, in good conscience, support what is happening here. Okay, like it's insane. And like, but I guess you were referring to something like the ambivalence of people, or maybe I have that wrong. I don't know. It was just, I was looking at Varadkar there was some article I just read before we came on where Catherine Connolly basically was saying like, let's see if I can pull up the article. Israeli ambassador should be called before Dáil and made account for words that she's using. So Catherine Connolly was like, basically saying, I didn't immediately call for the expulsion of the ambassador, but now she's like, I'm finding that very difficult to stick with that decision now. We need to bring this lady in here and be like, what are you saying? Why are you saying it? And like quiz her and grill her and talk about like potentially getting rid of her because fuck this lady. But anyway, they carry on with the article and they get down to a bit. So like, this is something that like, I guess is commendable, but then like he kind of like makes a balls of it as he's saying it. But Varadkar anyway is midway through the article. So Connolly is telling this to the Dáil, and I guess maybe it's leaders' questions or something, I'm not sure. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar confirmed that he has sent a joint letter with the Spanish Prime Minister which expresses deep concern about the deteriorating situation in Gaza and calls for an urgent assessment of whether Israel is in breach of the human rights obligations under the EU-Israel Association Agreement. And it's just like, I think you'll find in subsection paragraph E that you, sir, have been... And Israel just like, what? And Gaza's a parking lot and like, who cares?
I know.
Who gives a shit? It's like
3 months in, 30,000 people have been killed, half of them children. And then they're like, we're going to write to the unelected EU fucking president, who's extremely bloodthirsty, and say, maybe what do you think about sanctioning Israel a bit?
And then they go, no. And then they go, okay, well, I guess time to start the process all over again.
Yeah, like it's just nothing. It really is nothing. Do you know what I mean?
If the Commission, this is another one from him, if the Commission concludes that Israel is in breach of its obligations under the agreement, then the Commission should propose a response, although suspension may well require unanimity of member states. However, Mr. Varadkar warned that no war has ever been ended by a court order, by the expulsion of an ambassador, or by the suspension of an agreement. To think so is just make-believe, Varadkar said.
Yeah, but just do it anyway. You know what I mean? Like,
just do it. Just do it.
Like, it's not going to hurt. Do you know what I mean? And like, it's not. No one thinks like, oh, if we get rid of the ambassador, the war will end. It's just like, or the genocide will end. It's just like, it's just another bit of political pressure. Yeah.
Another thing that we spoke about on an episode that I haven't edited and released
it just
yet. Maybe
drives
I
me
should
crazy, that sort of stuff, you know?
Yeah. Like, here's one. But you remember last week, the Irish ladies, I don't know if ladies is correct, but the women's basketball team. The female basketball team. And I'm talking biological women. But like the women's basketball team were to play Israel. Yeah. And then Israel were like, they were like, there was reservations about playing them, and then the head of the basketball team league was like, no, we shouldn't boycott because it would just be like, it would just fuck up our sport, so who cares? You know, like, who gives a shit about Palestine, basically. And then the Israelis were like taking pictures of themselves with the IDF, talking about it, with holding fucking guns and shit, and talking about how the Irish were just anti-Semites and how it was important that they defeat them in this match. And so they were like, well, the way that we choose to sanction you is that we will not exchange gifts or shake hands at the start of the match. Okay? So they didn't do that. And then the Israelis just destroyed them, obviously, in basketball.
Yeah.
Because apparently a bunch of the high-profile players were like, well, I'm not playing, so fuck that.
Okay.
But like the match had to continue, air quotes, because otherwise they would have had to pay I think something like €100,000 fine, and then they'd be banned from playing for at least 5 years. To which I say, price worth paying.
Yeah.
Like they keep going like, this would cripple the sport. I was like, well then that's, you know, like that's, they're like, but if I do this, then something bad will happen to me. And it's like, okay, fine. Yeah. But that's the decision that you're making. You were deciding to do this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Exactly.
You know, like, so you care or you don't. And clearly some of them don't. And whatever. I don't know. I don't think it is a very honorable position, but this is all just to lead into Varadkar talking about it. So here's a quote from him. So Varadkar, remember at the start, he's like, oh, we need a ceasefire immediately. Oh, will we expel the ambassador? No, we're not going to fucking expel the ambassador. That's ridiculous. Like, he's got this thing where it's like, this is easy points for me. There are people who aren't engaging with this topic in any meaningful way. They see what's happening. It's kind of honestly like the way Sinn Féin do it, where it's like, I can do a little bit of posturing. I can spend a bit of my social capital in Europe on this kind of on something that people care about domestically. But when it comes to actually making any meaningful interventions, I'm not really going to do that because who cares? Okay?
Yeah.
But it's the tone of this which just like destroyed me. So this is a quote. I think I dropped it in the chat already, but it's one thing to expel Russia or expel Israel from certain sporting events or certain music events or contests, and I think that may well be appropriate. But for us to remove ourselves actually isn't a good idea, in my view, because all we do is disadvantage ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like, again, like, yes, but to support something that's meaningful. I mean, like, just, like, it's just crazy. It's just crazy that, like, just how, like, when you say, like, what about our business interests? What about these things? What about this, that, and the other? And they're like, well, but, like, that'll cost us money. And, like, and you're like, yeah, but, like,
it's just money.
I like money.
Yeah. Like, it's a genocide. Like, it's just so not. What's the word? It's just so serious. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like it is. We're talking about an ongoing genocide, and we're talking then about, like, should we be playing basketball with them or not? You know what I mean?
Fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, and then the other one is like I'm just filled. I'm buzzing with fucking articles and things that have been happening. But like remember when, you know, Biden, just an old man who doesn't know what's going on, and then every so often when he's entirely, like, lucid is when he's talking about death, violence, and destruction and imperialism. And so they ask him, like,
that's when every synapse in his brain just lights up. Yeah.
It's like when Israel is under attack, it's like, boom, just the thing comes into his head. I gotta get real for this one.
Yeah.
You know, sit up straight.
It's like, so, like, in The Simpsons, Leonard waking up and
yeah. But anyway, do you remember the thing where somebody asks him at the bombing of the Houthis, and he's like, is it successful? No. Is it going to continue? No. Is it stopping the Houthis? No. Is it going to continue? Yes.
Yeah.
And everything is just, like, being bombed, being destroyed, being killed. You're seeing, like, these images, and I gotta say, like, sometimes Owen Jones will be putting out stuff going, like, don't look away, and it's like, I cannot keep looking at this because there is nothing that I can do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be haunted by this shit for the rest of my days. Who are you trying to convince here? Like, I've seen stuff that I've, like, I don't know. I mean, it's nothing compared to what the people of Palestine are saying, obviously. But, like, I just, like, I don't know. I don't know what you do. Because I was thinking about this already. I was thinking about this, like, with, let's say, like, I'm going to reveal how little I know about autism now, okay?
Okay.
But, like, let's say somebody's like, you know, from what I read in The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, this is the extent of my knowledge of autism. But, like, when he's talking about, like, not understanding jokes, okay?
Yeah.
And then the solution isn't to be like, hey, well, you need to laugh at these jokes, you know?
Yeah.
You need to figure out how to laugh at these jokes. We need to do something about you not being... It's like, no, you just accommodate your behavior for the person that you're dealing with, okay?
Yeah.
Whereas what happens is they have, like, they try to keep appealing to the Israelis by going, but look at all the people you're killing. It's like, this is pointless.
Yeah.
It's pointless showing them a picture of a kid whose legs are ribbons, because they look at that and they just think, like, good. Or they think, like, well, it's grim but necessary. I don't know what to tell you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that kid would kill every member of my family given half a chance.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no... So you don't keep doing the same tactic again and again and again if you want the violence to stop. You just have to... Because I'm getting kind of pissed off with... They'll listen to the ambassador being interviewed on RTE, and they'll be, like, shaking their head and getting, like, really annoyed about it. But it's that thing where it's like, I can't engage with this because this is not serious. You can't invite this person on and be like, well, look at this atrocity. Surely you draw the line at this atrocity. And they go, no, I don't.
I know.
And then they just keeps upping the ante every single time. It's like this, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, I can't engage, like, in this part of the spectacle anymore.
it really is like, I don't know. It's just like inviting Goebbels on. I mean, like, showing them pictures of the Holocaust. I mean, like, does this not make you sick? Because at the end of the day, they mean, like, this is the plan. Like, this is good.
Yeah.
It's like, do you remember when, like, ISIS, remember when ISIS were around and they would publish, like, they had magazines and stuff. And as part of it, they'd have, like, pictures of newly conquered areas of Iraq and all this sort of stuff. And then they would and then like sections of the Quran, and then it'd also have like a picture of a chap being beheaded, and it was like all these things are equally good. Do you know what I mean? Like the killing of cutting the man's head off. That's not that's not a necessary evil. That's like something to be celebrated. So like when you have the ambassador on, and you're like, what about the... And part of the thing is, they'll never go, what about the kids you killed? They'll go, 4 kids were found to be dead.
Yeah, found with bullets in their head.
Yeah. With soldiers nearby. What do you make of that, you know? And then the ambassador's going like, good, great. That's the soldiers are doing their job. This is something to be celebrated, you know?
Well, the thing is that they don't, like, they do that, yeah. But the main thing that I've seen them do, well, I don't hear anybody talking about Israel or what happened on October 7th. It's like, that's all they fucking talk about. Every single, it's like the rosary, or whatever. I don't know religion, I'm bad at it. But you know, like, where you have to, like, end or start every sentence with a certain thing. It's like, you know, Hail Mary, Mother of God, I condemn Hamas. You know what I mean? It's just like, this has to be put forward, be in front of every single thing. Anyway, sorry, I could have crossed, but that was what I saw with the Israeli ambassador. That's what she said the other day.
Yeah.
She'd been interviewed, and then they asked, like, what do you think of this? And then she doesn't even answer, I think this is good. She just says, well, you have to think about... Well, she says something like, well, obviously it's a tragedy, but then what happened on October 7th, we can't forget this, you know?
Yeah. It's... the whole thing with the passive voice is really getting to me as well. Like...
Yeah.
Just it's always reported on, like, this many people were found dead, or, like, they were killed. It's rarely even like they were killed. It was just like, they are dead after a bomb exploded nearby.
Yeah.
And it's just something, like, it's just so crazy. Because you'll see it be like, Israelis killed, or Israeli soldiers killed by whoever. And then it's like, Palestinians found dead. It's just so...
Yeah.
unapologetically one-sided.
But it's also like, I was thinking about this in regards, I feel like my brain is so much slower these days for some reason, but freaking long COVID. But I was thinking about Ukraine. Like, obviously they could muster up that level of enthusiasm or whatever, like sympathy for dead Ukrainians. But I was also thinking about that in terms of, like, Upfront with Katie Hannon, where, like, the migrants... whatever. I'm going to listen. I'm a train of thought. It's just that, like, you know that they're capable of it.
Yeah.
And yet they choose not to. And then the stuff that's being... Like, it's so hypocritical and incongruous with what they allege to believe that it's leading to all of these insane things being said and just being accepted as, like, a given, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, I just wanted to... I don't know if I put this in the chat, but so there's, like, a fella... Sorry, the New York Times ran an article about coordinated rape gangs that Hamas were sending out there.
Okay.
Just
pure...
it was completely debunked, and it turned out it was...
You know what I mean?
Yeah, just absolute... Yes, fetish is right. Yeah. Like, it was... so anyway, it was fair enough that for the New York Times to put that on the front page and run with that.
Yeah.
And then they started to make a podcast series, the name of which is called Screams Without Words, I believe, here.
Okay.
Or maybe that was the name of the piece and I'm getting it mixed up. But either way, what they were going to do is they were going to release a podcast series about the coordinated rape gangs of Hamas. But there ended up being, like, a lot of discontent among the New York Times editorial staff.
Right.
So the podcast ended up not getting released. Okay.
Okay.
But one of the main journalists behind it, the foreign correspondent of the New York Times, appeared on this panel at the Institute of Global Politics, I guess. I don't know. I'm just looking at the video here, but here's what he said anyway. And what we found, I don't even want to use the word evidence, because evidence is almost like the legal term that suggests you're trying to prove an allegation or prove a case in court.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, that's the same as Kellyanne Conway going in, we're living in a post-truth society. But then all of these people who gave a shit then are like, this is serious analysis and we need to consider this, which what they're basically saying is like, well, what is real and what is true? Do we know? We don't really. All we know is what we feel, and what we feel is true. And I feel that there were coordinated rape gangs against.
Yeah.
And it's the same with at the end, the rising anti-migrant sentiment around the place, where it's like, I feel unsafe. I feel this is happening. I feel blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, it's a crazy time to live in, because, like, even since the start of the podcast, because we started it and
when did we start the podcast?
We started it in early 2020, just at the results of the election where Sinn Féin made gains.
Really?
And the thing about it, yeah. And like then there was kind of, you know, you could roughly say, oh, this party is this way and this party is this way and these are the things, you know. And then what happened over the course, COVID fucked everything up. But what fucked everything up even more is the coalition between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael.
Yeah.
Whereby they both just kind of merged, and Fianna Fáil has been struggling for about 4 years to try and find an identity outside of Fine Gael, and then sometimes it's robbing some of the identity parts of Fine Gael, and then Fine Gael seems to be like, fuck, I hate this job, I want to go somewhere else. They're all leaving, they all want to go into the private sector, and it's just this like absolute mess of like what's happening, what's going on. But COVID also fucked things up insofar as Paul Murphy says zero COVID. Paul Murphy therefore is in government and he's enacting a zero COVID strategy, which has small businesses on their knees.
Yeah.
It has them on their knees. And the citizens are on their knees.
In a bad way. Because normally they're on their knees sucking their own dick. Whereas this time...
Yes, exactly.
I don't know what they're up to down there.
I don't know.
Yeah, kissing their own ass goodbye.
But it's all so fucking confusing. Like, as in hard to. Like, one other thing as well, because since I maybe threw some shade at my own beloved mother for getting agitated about what the ambassador is saying on the news. My mum is a
COVID denier.
Yeah, she hates the stuff. What? She's like, no, she like, get away, get out. She's just shooing COVID out the door. That's not denying it. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah, it's also not how your mum says.
No, it's not. But my mum is like very active, very engaged. She knows what's going on. She's very, but she is involved in a group locally that are trying to get the county council to enact an occupied territories bill. Okay. Which is great.
Yeah.
And so she was in charge. She had to ring a bunch of county councillors. So she rang one guy, and then he's like, well, you're not my constituency, so I don't really have to do anything that you say. So you're better off just going for somebody else. It's like, honesty, I guess, is appreciated, but then you're also like, do you not feel any moral obligation whatsoever?
Yeah. I'm talking to you as a human being, not just as
exactly. Yeah. And this doesn't have to be transactional unless you make it transactional. And I guess you will make a transaction because you don't give a shit.
Because they were like, do you remember that time you wrote off to Owen O'Brien? Was it you? And then he was like, you were asking for help finding housing.
Yeah.
And he was like, you're not my constituency, but here's how you do it anyway.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's not, you can do stuff even if it's not for your constituents, Well,
they wanted him to put forward a motion to introduce an occupied territories bill or something like that. But anyhow, she rang up some Fianna Fáil councillor, and I was like, oh, I know where this is going. And then he just was like, straight away, yeah, I'll support that.
Really?
Yeah, I'll put that forward. It's like, no. And then they sent it to him, and he's like, are we going hard enough on this? Because they're real assholes. And I was like,
wow.
Fucking hell, man. I couldn't get over it. I was like, because this is the same, because Galway also has that other dickhead councillor who was saying that people would be afraid to have a walk in the woods because there'd be asylum seekers hiding behind trees.
Yeah.
Like, it's just it is a very strange allies at this moment in time because of the topic at hand.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know why I feel like impressed with him for having that opinion, because everybody should have that opinion with what they're seeing.
That's a mad thing about Fianna Fáil. Like, no one in Fine Gael would do that for you. And then
no.
The mad thing about Fianna Fáil is that there's that level of, well, I don't know what you call that. Like, they're just good at slapping backs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're good at just going, oh, this, I don't give a shit about this, so I might as well do it, you know?
Yeah. Well, he does give a shit about it, is the difference. I mean, I think that there's some truth to the idea that every now and again somebody from Fianna Fáil will surprise you, because they're like, you know, fuck it, Leroy Jenkins. They just go in, you know?
Yeah.
But a Fine Gael person will never do something unless they've seen somebody else do it and it's been successful.
Yeah.
That is like, they will wait till the final moment to be like, you know, but did you like that? Did you? Yeah, that was me, actually.
Yeah.
That's like Varadkar during the referendum, you know, where he comes and hands out one or two brochures, and then at the end of it, of course he's going to be at Dublin Castle, you better believe it, or whatever, wherever he was, he's going to be there, his picture is going to be next to all this stuff. But it's like, before that, where were you and what support were you providing? Yeah.
We take a break. I'm gonna get a coffee.
Sure. Anyway, there was a guy, okay, there was like this like, let's say, okay, a white guy commits a crime, and usually they show pictures of the victims.
Yeah,
but then like a black guy, yeah, but then like a black guy will commit some heinous crimes, and then front and center will be like his mugshot, and he just looks like the most intimidating he has ever looked in his entire life, you know. So there was a guy who he basically, like, they have footage of it, like, not the actual killings, but he killed a bunch of people, just stabbed them. But it was like he was in like GTA. Like, the footage of him is just him walking around, and he's like, okay, stab that, and then there's a car, steal that car, and he's just like driving, and then he veers into a guy who's driving on the opposite side of the road, and like, he's just like trying to kill as many people as possible. But he was in they were on trial, and they were trying to when I say trying, it's something I could be sympathetic with, which is that they were going, this guy like is schizophrenic and just had a mental health episode. He went fucking mad, you know? And so he got like I think what would be considered a bit of a lenient sentence, but he had to go to a psychiatric facility. And then the families were like,
what the fuck?
We don't like this. Yeah, they were like, but then they go like, we don't believe that he was having a mental health episode. And I was like, so you think that this guy of his own like cognizance just was like going around randomly stabbing random individuals, not taking any money, and then driving into some other guy to try and kill him as well, you know? It's like this thing where it's like I know it's really unpleasant and hard to stomach, but like, people can't, like, that's, mental health is not pretty, you know? Like, sometimes they put up these posters and they're like, you need to talk about it. Like, sometimes we all have days where we veg out watching the TV, eating a pack of crisps, and it's like, no, that's like, there's like horrific things that you do
about,
when
that's
you're
definitely fucking pricing it, like, you know what I mean?
Real
mental health is when you you shoot up school.
When you or when you do something that's like beyond human comprehension. Like, as in, I always there was a story that Tim Heidecker told, which was like, it was a really, maybe you already know this one. It was very moving anyway, where he talks about getting stabbed by his neighbor who freebased cocaine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or
now he's under the influence. Yeah.
The whole Kanye West thing, where he's like,
yeah.
And I know you might agree with this, but he says that, the Jews run the world and all this, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, being mentally ill is no excuse for being racist. Yeah,
I think sometimes it can be. I think sometimes, like, if your brain is fucked and not working and you need, like, therapy, medication, you need all sorts of shit just to keep you from, like sometimes people are born and their brains are scrambled.
Yeah, their brain is backwards. Born the wrong way around their head. So they're schizophrenic.
I just find it like, it is ugly, and it is just something we have to reckon with, and like yeah, I don't know. I guess I was just bringing that up because I thought it was a point worth making.
Yeah. So the guy crawled in your window and killed you while you slept, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm depressed. I'm anxious." You'd be like, "Please, I'm sorry. I failed you. Society's failed you." Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So Bibi Netanyahu was like,
Excuse me, I got mental health. I'm going through something right now, just murdering all these Palestinians.
Yeah, I have trauma,
Yeah.
I have trauma from the time my mom said we were going to the dentist.
Yeah.
No, we were going to the shops, but it was actually the dentist.
Yeah.
I was watching First Dates. Have you ever seen First Dates? Ireland?
The Irish one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
And it's nothing to do with what we're talking about, but partly, I'll link it in and then I'll dash over to the main point. One mistake I see all the men make on that show is that the woman will be talking about her trauma, some trauma she's gone through.
Yeah.
And then the guy will join in. And
just sharing his trauma, or like...
Yeah.
What? Right.
And I swear to God, and I'm not saying this is all women, I'm just saying this is women on this show. You can see them lose interest in real time. Do you know what I mean? The guy's she's talking, and then he's like, I got really depressed. I went through a really hard time. Like, I swear to God, there was one on last night, and she was talking, and then he goes, I was really depressed with my own issues. And then she goes like, oh yeah? You were like going to therapy or whatever? Just could not be any less interested. It just freaks him out. Anyway, my real point is that there's this woman, and she put the guy in a real hard situation, because she was like, I used to be a stripper. I used to be a stripper, and then, what do you make of that? What do you make of that? And he's like, I think it's, like, if it's someone I was going out with and they used to do this and they still do it, it's like, and I like them, why would I want to change it? And then she goes, yeah, I never do it again. I think it's fucking disgusting. It's fucking repulsive doing something like that. And like, you can just see it being like, which bit do I agree with? The bit where it's like being sex positive, or the bit where yeah.
That's funny.
Good show.
Yeah. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of it.
I love it so much. Why don't you like it?
First, I think it's boring, and then secondly, when it's not boring, it's awkward, and those are awkward things I can't handle.
Yeah. So, I just love.
I did what? Yeah.
Seeing people fuck it up. It's like the scheming that goes on.
Yes. Yeah.
I find that fascinating.
I saw one. It was two gay guys. Imagine, And they were, one of them was like just talking about how much he loved Varadkar and how sexy he was.
Ugh.
And then the other guy was just like he didn't say this to the guy. He kind of said this like, oh, you know, it was meant to be, I guess, like a promo type thing where it's like, look at these two opposites meeting each other. But like the blue shirt vibes off of this guy were so extreme that on sight you could see this other guy just be like, fuck this guy. I hate him. I did watch Sean Fitzgerald's episode.
No, I didn't. But I heard they edited him to make him look really bored or something.
Do they need to edit that? Like, like I could so easily imagine him just being bored. So.
Yeah. There's one on last night and it was like the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like in a banal way. And it was this guy, sometimes the lads would go on. It's like how are the women fooled by this? But anyway, it's like he was like an old style hipster, you know, like suspenders, the big glasses, all this sort of stuff. And then he's, you know, talking about his journey and how he's really in touch with his emotions. And then the woman goes, when the bill comes, she goes, oh, I'll pay for this, right? I don't know how modern dating discourse, you know, not to get too into it, but it's like, that's always a bluff. Do you know what I mean? It's like the woman's being polite. And he goes, if you like, yeah, I'd love that. And you can see her being like he doesn't even go, like really what she's doing is she's been like, we're going half. You know what I mean? I don't want to be, like, I know sometimes men think they have to pay. You don't. Let's go half. But she's been like, maybe I'll pay. And he's like, if you like, yeah, I'd love that. If you feel like you want to do that. And you can see her being like, what the fuck? And then she pays. And then they go into the room and it's like, do you want to see each other again? He goes, no. He says, no, after letting her pay. I was like, that's
how long after does the thing,
like,
does the after
5
thing
minutes
happen?
like,
really,
yeah, it's like, and they're wearing the same clothes, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It's really soon. Like, it wasn't like, I know what you mean, it's not like a week later. No, it was like, oh yeah, just come into this other room. And like, that's just so much rougher for women. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
what? Yeah. Like, no, I was going to say your one socialist horse girl was on.
Was she?
Well, yeah. What's her? I don't know her name, but she's apparently on an upcoming season. Because I saw, like, I'm following her on Instagram, and so she has her going up the stairs with the big thumbs up, and then coming down the stairs from the same restaurant, like, nah.
Really?
Like, so I guess what you were saying, I was like, that's probably what happens then. You have the whole date, you have the aftermath of the date, all in the same afternoon.
Yeah.
And then you just are like, thumbs up, thumbs down. So,
yeah. I'd love to go with it.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam went on it as well. That other fella who organised the comedy night we did one time.
Oh yeah.
Remember for those students and that really weird.
Oh yeah, that was so awkward. I was like, oh, we should go to this, and then it was like a student fundraiser comedy night.
That was a different one. No, I was talking about the one where we got paid, I believe, to perform for American students who were coming over. Yes. And it was in a pub along the quays.
That was rough. That was
rough. Although you got on really well. People really liked you. They really did not like me at all.
I think I did that twice. So like the second time, I had mentally prepared. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, that was among the top worst gigs of my entire life. Performing to like American students who really want to eat dinner, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So what was I going to do? So we were talking about like Israel and just the government's kind of weird. you know, one step forward, two step back sort of approach, where it'll be like, you know, they really need to stop. And it's like, so are you going to like say to Europe that, you know, are we going to, you know, get rid of the ambassador? Are we going to boycott Israeli goods? And no, we're not going to do that. And then they're like, all right, fine. But you sent me a clip that was like, I was like, holy shit.
Well, golly, what a teaser. You'll have to go over to patreon.com/CelticLigers to hear the rest. Behind the paywall, the Ligers talk about Sinn Féin's fair weather stance on Palestine, Paul Murphy dominating a big racist, and then they read out a review of the new Karen's restaurant. Woohoo.